Okay, I'm Charles Reeby. I was the center director at Great Onyx Job Corps Center at Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, starting in between 1965 and 1968. One of the corpsmen that was at the center during that time was Marcelino Brito. We call him Sam,
yes, sir.
or Sammy, and we're here to talk about the Job Corps, our experience at the center, and Sam's actually to find out more about Sam's reaction to his experience there, whether it's been beneficial to him after the Job Corps and during his life. The Job Corps was part of the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964. It was signed passed by Congress and signed by President Johnson on August 20th. And from that time on, those of us that volunteered to go in the program were getting ready, and the centers were supposed to be being built. Mammoth Cave is a national park, and so the Park Service was going to build the center and have it built ready to go when the corpsmen came. And the program of the Economic Opportunity Act included the Job Corps, Head Start, Vista Volunteers. Vista was Volunteers in Service to America, was what it was about, and these were volunteers similar to the Peace Corps to help with the poverty programs of that day. And as President Johnson said, that the Job Corps, the war on poverty, the Job Corps was part of the war on poverty, and it was aimed at the inner cities and the poorest of the poor was the term that he used, to provide them an opportunity to finish their education and to learn job skills, because in those days there was lots of jobs, but there were not enough people that were skilled to be able to take those jobs. And so the center then was started as part of that, and we activated in June of 1965, and our first corpsman came on June 15th or June 18th. And so with that, this is me at the time at the center, and the other people here at the table are Sam, or Marcelino, Sam Brito, and my wife Beverly, who were also involved in the Job Corps program for the 3 years that we were at Mammoth Cave. And so with that, Sam, we want to talk about your ancestors, your life history, your growing up, where you went to school, your first jobs, just everything that comes to your mind before you got into Job Corps, and that leads up to why you got in Job Corps. And as an interesting kind of aside, when I got here and we started talking, that you were born at Mitchell, Nebraska, and I think that's where my wife and I watched the eclipse this last time was at Mitchell. So we didn't know about that at the time. But anyway, that's just an aside. So, Mr. Brito, this is about you.
Thank you.
So this is the preamble to start, and you, the story is yours, and I'm going to ask the questions. So there's a picture of Sam. He was quite an artist in his day, and he made that head that was in the administration building in the center after he left. He did, for some reason, he didn't take it with him.
You kept it. Well, my name is Marcelino S. Brito. I was born here in Mitchell, Nebraska. And then at the time, you know, time went on, but my grandparents, they all originated from Mexico. And there's where my mom and dad, they met, got married, because they was always migrating in different parts of the country. So they got married here in Mitchell's, and then from there, you know, they still kept on working out in the fields, working on sugar beets, potatoes, well, whatever there was for them in them days to make a living out of it, you know. So out of this family of my mom's side, they originated from Mexico. Then from there, my parents decided to go to Texas, go live down there. So mom and dad, they all got a divorce. In time, we ended up back into Nebraska. We lived in Mitchell for a while. Then from Mitchell, from there, we lived to Kansas City, Missouri.
Well, Sam, did your parents, did they come from Mexico?
No, my mom and dad, they come out of, they were born, one was born in Snyder, Texas. My mom, she was born in Turner, Kansas.
How about your grandparents?
Grandparents, they were born in Mexico too. They were from Sombrero, Mexico. They were from up that way, see. So and then, like I said, you know, then they migrated into the United States. So they made their living out here. My grandparents and everybody else, they left to go live in Kansas City, Missouri. So there's where we ended up at, you know, after mom and dad got a divorce, we ended up over there. So, you know, life went on. We started getting in trouble, this and that, you know. So mom decided to bring us back to Nebraska. And here where I made my life after that, you know. Started working odd jobs at 15, 16 years old.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Midland, Nebraska. I mean Midland, Texas. I went to school 1 year here in Mitchell. Then I went up another rest of my time in Kansas City, Missouri, till the time we moved back. See, that was all right, you know. I mean, I can't complain. You know, it was we had to make a living some way or the other, you know.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't, you know, who's going to help us, you know?
Was it just you and your mom, or
Yeah,
where were your sister?
My other brother and sister, they were still young.
They weren't old enough to
old
work.
enough to be out working, you know.
Ah.
But the only thing they gave us then, it was what, $5? That was $20, $20 a month that would give us to live on. And who's going to live on $20 a month?
That was the people you worked for?
No, that was when we went to welfare.
Oh, welfare, okay.
You know, that's what they would give us. Who's going to live on $20 a month? You know, it's hard to make ends meet, but there's where I started working out. You know, I said, we'll make it, you know, one way or the other.
How old were you when you started working?
Oh my goodness, 16 in there somewhere, 15. After I had quit school, 17 in there. And then from there, we made a life out of it, you know. We tried to anyway. Can't complain.
Well, in sixth grade, you were going to be something like 10, 11 years old.
Yes,
Is that, you started working like then?
I started working on the beet fields, yes, sir.
In the beet fields?
Yes.
Oh, at Mitchell?
In Mitchell. Started working these farmers out in the beet field. And I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't, you know, I can't complain over that, you know. But as long as we had something to look forward to, you know, especially a good health and everything, that's the main thing, you know. Yeah, but my other sisters and brothers, you know, like I said, they were too young to work yet, but they tried. They went out there and helped us out, you know. Especially when we was out in the beet fields, we would be clean beets and beans and all that, you know. But it was all right.
So you didn't work in you didn't go to school, into high school?
No, sir.
At Mitchell?
No,
or any place?
I didn't go nowhere and started working. You know, that's what I guess I look forward to, you know.
So in the beet fields, what did you do?
Well, we thin beets, you know, help, and clean beans, you know, weed them and all that, you know. But still, you know, that was a job.
Did you have to work, you know, on your hands and knees?
At that time, we didn't, but there used to be some, they call them braceros. They used to come down here during the beat season. And them guys, they would have to be bend over using a short hole, but we were lucky. We got to use a long hole. See?
Oh.
So we started from there, you know. But it was hard work being out in the sun every day, you know, hot. But what part I used to like about it, after we got done working, going in ditch canals, go in there and clean ourselves off, you know.
We'll go swimming in the
Yes.
irrigation canals?
Yes, sir. Go in there and, oh, we didn't have no water, excuse me, we didn't have no water, running water at the house or anything like that. Well, that was part of it, you know. Get ourselves clean. So I ended up over in Mammoth Cave National Park, you know.
And so you actually signed up at the employment office?
Employment office to go in there.
Yeah,
You know.
and did they tell you about your pay or what you were
They
going
didn't,
to
they
get?
didn't say anything, you know. All they said they was gonna get an allotment, but they didn't say how much, you know. So there's where it came out, you know, like say I was working at the time, you know, here. But when I was at the Job Corps, they would send an allotment home, but I didn't know how much they were getting, you know. And then we would get so much to spend for us for necessities, you know. And then all through the year, you know, when I was there, it's just go out there and learn a new trade.
Do you remember what they were?
I know you had plumbing, electrician, masonry work, then welding, and carpentry work. You know, all your skills were there. It just depended what you're going to fit into, you know.
You could be an equipment operator
And heavy equipment operator, yes, sir.
and a mechanic.
Mechanics. Oh, they had, say, all the trades you wanted, you know, they were there.
And you also could become a cook.
Yes, sir. You can learn how to cook. That was all right, you know, but I don't want to get like Mr. Ed. Pretty good sized man. But they were all great, you know. You know, you had chores to do.
Because Ed, you're talking about Ed Hughes, right?
Yes,
He was the chief
cook.
cook, but he also taught heavy equipment operation.
Yes, And then, you know, he done his thing, you know, but we had to learn how to live with each other, how to learn your trade. Because, you know, you can only stay there so long, you know.
How was that when you were learning with each other? Because when the Job Corps started, the government had people going around to the local communities talking about, because people were concerned about race issues because of the riots and the burning that was going on, like in California and New York and other places. And so there was a concern about that. And I remember the people that were doing the public relations for Great Onyx were telling people that, you know, the center would be no more than 50% black. Well, you know, as you well know, while you were there,
yes,
there was way more than 50%. So it was more like 85. But that was just the people that were volunteering and coming in. Do you remember any of those kids that came from what's called, you know, West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, you know, the coal mining areas?
Yeah, there used to be guys there, you know, that I knew. Like that one guy, his name was Yoho Mahoney. And he was from inside the mountains over, you know, wherever the coal is at, you know. And that was like Leroy. He was from in the mining areas. There had to be about 5 or 6 people. I mean, there was even guys there that I knew. They didn't know more or less your facilities, you know, your toilets, your washing facilities and all that, you know. And you have to learn all that, you know, because I remember guys, they want to use an inside toilet, you know.
Really?
Yes, sir. They would either be there, you know, until they got used to it. They would go out in the woods or whatever, you know.
Really?
Yes, sir. You know, so finally the ones I knew in Mardorf, you know, we wanted to start helping them out, you know. Because, you know, like I needed the help, they needed the help too, you know, because, you know, you can't just shy them away just because they talk different or chew tobacco different, you know. but that was all right though, you know. I mean, you met different people, you know, because like you said, they're in the black section, you know, I mean, heck, you know, like I was telling the missus, you know, I was more or less grew in Kansas City in with blacks, so I more or less knew how to function with them, you know. You know, they all treated me right because when I got there in that Job Corps Center, I was the first Mexican to get in there, you know.
Yeah, you were.
You know, and all them guys treated me all right, you know. They never shied me away, you know. And then as we were there little by little all together, I think there was, when I was there was what, about 5 or 6 Mexicans in the whole thing, you know.
Yeah. There were more then.
You know, and then they all treated us all right, you know. I mean, like, as you know, it was people of color, but so they were too, you know. Even the whites that were there, we all got along together at one time, you know. There was never an issue. I says, you get more than I do or whatever, you know. No, we was all equal, you know. And we kind of find out there's a way to live instead of just having riots or whatever, you know what I mean.
We never had one of those
No,
there.
sir, we never did.
Even when Martin Luther King was killed,
Yes.
we didn't have any problem.
I have a question. I know when some of the corpsmen came, there were some probably kids who had never been to a dentist.
Exactly.
Or had some physical problems. How was that handled?
Well, that was handled. We used to go into the Bowling Green. You know, the Job Corps, they had a dentist there that was, you know, we took down there, see. And there's where I came in, you know, more or less after I started being there. They gave me my government driver's license, and I started transporting guys to the dentist, take them to the doctors, you know, like we had.
Did you know how to drive?
Yes, sir.
Did you learn there?
No, I already knew how to drive then, you know. And then that's where Doc, you know, he's the one that asked me if I wanted to transport people in there. I said, sure, why not, you know.
Was there any, I know there was some discrimination then. Was there a problem with like the black kids getting their teeth fixed, and did you have to go to certain places?
No, they all went to the one dentist, you know.
Okay.
And there was never a problem with him, you know.
Okay.
They all treated everybody right, you know. But like I understand, you know, there in Bowling Green there was a lot of prejudice going on too, you know. Because
sure.
even there, like I was telling you earlier, when we first went into town, there was what, 1, 2, 3 of us. There was 3 Mexicans then. And we went into town, and we was the only Mexicans in that town. It was blacks and whites, and that was it, you know. And they were surprised probably to see Mexicans. What the heck they doing down here? They're immigrating down here now. And since one comes, you all come, you know. But it wasn't that way, you know. I mean,
Well, I just wondered how you know,
No,
because I know that that was a concern for some of those kids who got there.
yeah, because there was, I think we had 1 or 2 guys, they got sick or had I can't remember what the heck was it, an appendix problem, and they took him into the hospital. You know, they had, Job Corps had their hospitals and everything for them, you know, and the guy was telling me, they treated me great, you know.
Because we used the hospital at Cave City, and that's where the corpsmen went for that. And Sam's right, we had contract dentists and doctors, and that was one of the problems with those kids, you know, from the coal mining areas. They had really bad teeth.
Yes, sir.
We'd have to take them, you know, they'd have to go to the dentist, get their teeth fixed before they could eat a steak.
Yes.
You know, and they didn't know, nobody knew much about steaks.
Didn't know about bologna though.
Yeah, so they didn't really like steak, you know, to start with some of the guys. So, but anyway, we had that health thing to get everybody ready. Some of you guys would come in there, you know, and we'd always issue you clothes.
Yes, sir.
That were bigger, and I forget how much the average was, but it was like 20 pounds or better after you started to eat, after the corpsmen,
Yes.
you know, started to eat the menu there and working and things like that. They just got bigger.
Yes. You know, that's one thing, like clothing wise, you know, they were all furnished, you know.
What was the clothing? What did they give you?
To us, when I first got there, they was giving us like, say, Navy clothing. It was
Military.
like military clothing, you know, and everything was military, you know, clothing that they gave us. You know, it was great, you know, because all I took was just a pair of pants and a shirt.
Yeah.
You know, so they clothed us there and everything, you know.
So you got shoes.
Shoes, boots.
You got dress shoes, and you got a pair of work boots, and socks.
Socks, pretty near everything.
And then you had a dress uniform with a blue blazer with Job Corps on it.
I remember that,
And gray pants, and a shirt. I think you had a tie too.
There was a tie involved with it too. There was, you have to learn how to tie your own tie then. There was no clip on.
Because you got work clothes, you got shirt and pants and underwear, and
Yes.
all of that was furnished.
Everything was furnished for us, you know. Even on down the line, you say you're gonna work things out, but then they just replace them for you. Which it was great, you know.
You guys really looked sharp when you were dressed up in your blazers.
They looked nice. You know, that's my first time coming home on Christmas. That's what the blazers, you know, they gave us blazers, pants, and shirts, and everybody looked all right, you know.
Good. So anyway, the mix of races, if you want to say that, in the center, you didn't have really much trouble.
No.
No fights.
Race-wise, you know, there was argument. That's about it, you know. But I'm not going to say there was fist fights or anything like that.
Well, the white kids were a little bit hard to get along with, weren't they?
They were, because, you know, they had to more or less get used to the environment where we're at, you know. Before there was just like I say, like they're in Bowling Green there. You got your blacks over there and your whites over there, so you have to mingle in that camp with each other, you know. You can't separate anyone, you know. Got to treat them right, you know. And that's where I learned that, you know, because even like when we used to have our meetings and everything, you know, we was all together, we was all one, you know.
See, I've had discussions, you know, since my time with the Job Corps, but in people criticizing the Job Corps program, and I've always told people that, in my opinion, the Job Corps did more to better race relations than anything else the country's ever done, other than the military guys. But they went in the military, they kind of separated in there too.
Yes.
But in the center, you guys had to go to school together, you had to work together, slept together, so you got to know each other.
Yes, because that's the way it was, like it was talking about sleeping together, you know. We all had our dormitories, you know, like there was I can't remember how many it was to a dorm. You know, but we were all mixed together.
There were about 30 in a dorm.
You know, there wasn't, you're not going to say that there was more blacks in one dorm or like this. No, they were all together, you know.
Okay, now how was, so then there was the work program.
Yes, sir.
And we were, you know, the staff, we were trying to do lesson plans for work that would help with reading and writing, you know, in terms of, like when you're doing the masonry work, that you had to calculate how much rock you needed for a certain height and length of wall or whatever. That's just an example. But otherwise it was hands-on, show, tell, and practice.
Exactly.
And so, had you done any masonry work?
No.
But when you were there, when you look
Yeah.
at the stuff you guys did, you know, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we done masonry, you know, there, but like I was telling this while ago, you know, one of the instructors, you know, he showed us more or less what to do, you know, how to cut a rock with a chipping hammer, how to lay it, how to put the concrete in there. You know, we done all that work, you know, but still, you know, to me that was kind of it was hard work, you know.
Masonry's hard.
I see guys out there laying brick, laying the little blocks. That's hard work, you know. Because we done it there, you know, we pretty near built that whole center,
I know.
you know. And we had a rock or a stone quarry or whatever it was, you know.
Yeah, we had our own stone quarry there in the park
Yes, sir.
where we had to get the rock.
We
So
said-
you had that experience too.
Yes, sir. You know, that and laying all that rock that we did before, you know, I mean, like I said, you know, we built that thing from scratch, you know. You know, like even sidewalks before, we used to have, what was it, them pallets, that was our sidewalks there, and you're like going like an old cowboy town, you know.
The wood pallets.
You know?
Yeah, because that was when we started the center. We were walking in the mud.
Yes, sir.
You know, and when Corpsmen were coming, we're there, and so the center wasn't finished, and then the Park Service was supposed to provide us with a work program,
Yeah.
and we never had much of a work program from the Park Service, so I just said, okay, we're just going to build the center, and so you guys were all working on that, digging ditches, putting in pipe, doing the rock walls, doing the concrete sidewalks. You even put, you know, concrete blocks up under the dorms.
You have to hold the dorm up, because all they had was just, what is it, a wooden structure?
Yeah,
Not
with a
wooden structure, it was
steel frame.
structure underneath, you know?
Yeah,
But we didn't have nothing to cover it for the wintertime wise anyway.
it was cold.
But, you know, I didn't care too much for that, you know, but on down the line, I started learning what I wanted, you know. So
What was your main interest?
Welding.
Welding?
Got into welding, yes, sir. And that was my best experience I had there, how to learn, you know.
Whatever projects did you work on there that you welded?
There's this steel building that we got there when we first erected that building.
Okay.
We started building the wall around our driveways and the walls that we needed, you know, for more or less to make it look all right, you know, because there was no walls at all, you know. But now we had something there to work with. It's all sandstone that this come up, you know. So this is our wall, and the Corpsmen putting it up, you know. That's where you start learning your trade more or less about your walls, you know. So I'll let you do that one then.
That was masonry. And then this was look at the picture.
Yeah, this is the building that we helped construct up there. Because when we got there, we used to have a building before, and that one burned down. So they started making this building, and we all had everybody put parts in it, everybody done their work, and then done what we're supposed to do, you know. And after that, we got it all done. We put a second floor on it. And then after the second floor, and then the other guys, they started to put the cover on them, you know. Then you got all your bricks, all your blocks and everything that was supposed to put inside later on in time after everything got done. So and then from there, it came out a pretty good building. And I don't know if it's still there or not, you know.
Well, they tore it all down when they built the new center.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because they built a new center in I think it was 1984. And the reason that they built the new center was that our center had a sewage lagoon, sewage disposal system, and it turned out that one of those lagoons is leaking into the cave, into Mammoth Cave.
Okay.
So they couldn't get the leak stopped, I guess, so they decided to just, they'd build a new center.
Do another one. Huh?
But I wasn't there, so I don't know anything about it other than that. So, yeah, so that was you played football, but this is an idea of the work that Sam was, that you were talking about, were these pictures. And then when there's some in there, we also have some of the shots about doing the interior that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because we built a second floor, remember?
Yes, sir. We built that second floor on there, and that and you had to carry, what was it, concrete. After we put the second floor, we had to carry concrete by buckets, put them on wheelbarrows to take it all where it's supposed to go at, there's where I started learning. I didn't care too much for concrete work, but when it came down to laying the floor for it, we welded all that tin on there in order to get.
That's where your welding started.
That's where my welding started progressing, So we done all that. We laid the wire up there and tacked it and whatever it was had to be done. And from there they started the concrete work, I didn't have too much to do with concrete. They care for it.
But what we did was we built that building. You guys started with the frame. This was the frame.
Bone structure.
It was a steel rigid frame structure, 40 feet wide and 190 feet long. And on then this end of it, we built a second floor on this end, remember?
Yes,
And that's what you're talking about,
Yes.
is where so I designed the second floor, and we had steel posts, holding up and then beams across. Remember, we had stringers, steel stringers, and then we were trying to figure out what we could do to put concrete up there. And I don't know if it was you guys or
I think it was Paul that brought that up.
suggested that or not. But anyway, so we had that metal. It was like corrugated metal that we put on there to put the concrete on. And so you guys welded that together, and then you also put the wire mesh,
yes, sir,
in the concrete. You had that ready to go, and then we didn't have any. We had to buy the concrete, of course, ready mix, and so we had a bucket, like a garbage can sort of thing, tied up to the end of an end loader. And so then to lift the concrete up there in that bucket, we use the end loader and hoist the concrete up in that bucket and then dump it in the wheelbarrows.
Yes.
Then you guys were wheelbarrowing it to the floor. And then after that was done, then we had to finish the floor. And you guys did a good job. That was
it looked good after it got done with it,
That was a nice building.
That's where we used to have our, say get together more or less, because before we used to have it in a mess hall.
Yeah.
So then they went to this, we had the second floor.
Yeah.
So that's where you had all your get-togethers in there.
But you remember that recreation building that was down there next to the education building?
Yes, sir.
That one-room place. It wasn't very big.
No.
And when we started, the only place you guys could play basketball, we put up a pole with a basket and backboard on the dirt.
Yes, sir.
And you guys played in the dirt back there.
So then they started building some other stuff to it. That's where they had the baseball field and some other field towards this way.
Yeah.
A football field. Then you had your basketball courts after that,
Yeah. And then the recreation building, when we started, we had one TV station.
Yes.
One TV in there for all you guys to crowd in that place. You remember how dirty it used to get?
Oh, heck yes. Everybody get in there. I said, oh my goodness. Everybody had their own duties, how to keep clean everything, You have people that done their KP, and then plus people that done all the groundwork, But we had to take care of our own dorms, keep them clean, you know. And that's where you come to find out who do you live with and how clean you are.
Yes.
Then you gotta teach the other guys, nah, you know, you gotta be like we are over here, you know, you can't be that dirty, you know.
So there was kind of a competition between you guys in the dorms.
Yes.
To, you know, to do things, keep things clean and taken care of. And that rec building, that finally was where the counselors, or where Abner Bradley, and there was a counselor there, his name was J.C. Doggett.
Okay.
That they had their desks there, or places where they could talk with the corpsmen that wanted to talk. So that's kind of where you went when you got homesick, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Well, it was always at nighttime.
Always at nighttime?
Yes.
Then what would you do?
I just sit out there, you know, wondering to see how my family's doing, how they, you know, what's going on with them, you know. And I'd be sitting there, and then I start crying over it, you know. And that was all right. At least you learn something. You learn how to be away from home, you know.
You got over it.
Yes, sir. I got over it. That took about a week, 2 weeks or whatever, you know. But then I got over it, you know. There was guys to mess around with before I didn't know nobody, you know. So now you have people to mingle with, more or less, you know. And we went from there, you know. Done all right.
Okay, so that takes care of the kind of the work part, and then you had the dorms. So tell me, what's your recollection of the dorms? Because I have a picture of the dorms that they're all open.
No.
So in the beginning, I think in the beginning we had rooms.
They were all closed. When we got there, our dorms, I think there was 4 guys to a room.
Okay,
But
that sounds right.
each guy had his, well, we all had our own room, you know. I mean, not our own, we had 4 guys to a room. But we had walls then, see. And I don't know later on if they knocked them down or what, you know, because to see what the heck was going on with everybody, you know. And that's where what was the guy that took care of us at night, you know?
Resident worker.
Resident worker, he'd go in there, check on you, see if you were in bed or what, you know. You know, there was a lot of work put in there, you know,
Yeah.
especially from you guys, you know, putting up with us or whatever, you know, but.
Oh, we didn't look at it as putting up with you. We were there to, you know, we thought we were doing something good.
And you were, you know.
So,
you did do.
but anyway, well, we'll come back to the dorm. But I just thought, what was a day like? A typical day. What time did you get up?
Yeah, well, you have to be up in the morning before breakfast hours. You ain't gonna eat.
Is that about 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock.
And then you got up, got dressed, washed.
Got dressed and washed, you know, go eat breakfast, go
Well,
get dressed and
did you
wash.
raise the flag?
There was in the mornings. Mornings we had flag ceremonies. Every morning, you know. We have to be out there in the morning.
For the flag, when we rose it?
Yes, sir.
You know, raised the flag?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We was out there every morning for that, you know. And what was it, flag ceremonies we had?
Yeah.
You know, we had that, and then from there you disperse to go where you're supposed to go to, you know. You know, we, like you said, I never
Did you have breakfast before the flag raising or after?
After.
After.
Yes, sir.
So it was get up, get dressed, wash,
Go
flag raising, then breakfast.
Yes, sir.
And then to work and
And
to,
then you flare it off or where you're supposed to go to, you know. Either go to education or go to work, so, you know.
because we had a tough time with coming up with that schedule, Sam. We finally ended up with a week in education.
Yes.
And a week at work. But before we tried a half a day work, half a day education, and the scheduling and getting things done, and like the work crews had to have lunch, you know, out. And so then we tried it with a full day at work, full day at education, alternating
Yeah,
days.
that one didn't work too good either, you know.
And that didn't work very good, did it?
Until you went a week education, a week work, and that was working out pretty good, at least,
That was the best.
you know, where you was supposed to be at, you know. But like working the other way around, you know, you work one week, work one day, next day you go to education. And, you know, you was messed up all the time, you know.
Yeah, 'cause, well, you mentioned earlier, or when we were talking about you'd be working on a project like the building. And so you'd be there a week, and then you'd be gone a week. So when you came back, there'd be a week's work done before you got back.
Yes, because, you know, you broke it down, you know, you had so many crews one week. Say like that one week you would go to school, the other week, the other corpsmen would be working in your spot, you know. There was always people on there, always on a job, you know. I think that's why that building got put up so fast, you know.
Yes.
Because you had like I said, you know, 1 week work and 1 week education. But in between there, the other corpsmen were doing the other work, you know, putting up that building and working on out in an environment, putting up walls or whatever, you know. That's why it got built up so fast, you know.
Yeah, because we started, you know, in June, and we dedicated it the first part of November.
Yeah.
And it was all done by then. The road was paved, and the walls were up, and the sidewalks were in, and there were still a few things
Yeah.
left to do, but basically the most of the work had been completed.
Yeah, because like I remember
and the corpsmen did all that.
I remember spending my Thanksgiving there.
Yeah.
You know, my first Thanksgiving there at the job.
Where did you have dinner?
Oh, we had, you name it, we had everything. You know, we had the biggest part about it, you know, that day, that day or that week, it was my turn to be on KP. You know, so we, you know, everybody made the, what do you say, made all the dinner and everything, you know. But my KP was cleaning the pots and pans. I enjoyed that, you know.
Okay.
You know, and Ed always says, "You know where to go, Sam?" Yes, sir. You know, then when you're working in the kitchen, you get privileges. That's what I liked about it, you know. You get what you want.
Well, didn't we have a freezer?
Oh, he had a big, what do you call it? You walk-in freezers.
Yeah.
And a walk-in refrigerator.
But didn't we have a freezer that was out in the mess hall, where we had ice cream?
Oh, it had a dispenser. Yeah, I remember that. You know.
Yeah, so you could go in there anytime you want.
And get
an ice cream
juice
bar,
or whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
You know. You know, food-wise, we never did. What do you say? We never did suffer.
Did you say the food was any good?
Oh, it was great. You know, but what I'm used to eating, you know, it was great food. You know, I always had something different, and it was never the same time. Then I remember going. Where did we go? We went to Fort Knox.
Yes.
The military base there, and that's where we used to get our canned goods and all that stuff from them. You know.
Uh-huh.
And that's the part I like. You have to go out there and help them load stuff up. You know, get away from them a while. We done all right. You know.
Yeah, you guys took care of yourselves pretty well.
Yeah, we had good people to teach us. You know.
So that's the day then was up at I think it was like 6, and then breakfast was at 8 or maybe 7, and then work and school started at 8.
Yeah.
And then it went till noon.
So noon dinner
And then the guys on education that were in the center ate in the dormitory.
Yeah.
I mean in the cafeteria. But the guys on work crews had lunches. And they had theirs out on the job.
Yeah, they used to
at
give
lunch.
us. Well, so sometimes they would give us sandwich bags, you know, bags of whatever we got in the sandwiches, you know. That was our dinner, you know, when you was out in the field.
Yeah.
And there was times when that felt pretty good. He'd take some hot lunches out there, you know. But that was all right, you know. I still remember that, man.
Okay, so then work quit at like 4:35 because
Yes.
you put in a full day, and then you came in and you got cleaned up, and then supper.
Go eat supper. And then we had After supper, it was all free time then, you know, till whenever, but you had to be in bed a certain time, you know.
So it was like 10 o'clock?
It was 10, before 10 or 9 in there somewhere, you know, but you had to, that was your, you had to be in bed a certain time, you know. Yeah, if you didn't, and then the guy that took care of the dorms would come after looking for you. He says, you gotta go to bed.
So that was a resident worker?
Yes, sir.
Were they pretty good guys?
Oh, heck yes. You know, we all got together. We got along with each other. You know, each dorm, you know, that kept us going. You know, we all got along great. You know, can't complain about that. But you know, that was all right. You know. See, like even like in the mornings, like get up to go to breakfast. If you weren't there on time, Edward says, well, kitchen's closed. Grab a glass of milk or something. You ain't gonna get no more. You know. Well, it's only right, you know, because they gotta prepare their food for dinner
Sure.
time, you know.
And that was one of the, you know, the purposes of the program was to provide a, you know, a good attitude, so that people were used to doing things on a schedule.
Yes.
And being there because, you know, there was some people wouldn't get to work on time or wouldn't work all the time they were there. And so that was the whole purpose of the work program, the education, the whole thing was to get you guys so that you were used to doing work. So when you went out, when you left the center, then you went to work for somebody.
Yes.
You had a good attitude. You were there. You did your work.
You know, there was times where the time I was there, you know, say, what does you got? I think it was 4 or 5 strikes. You know, you get 5 or 4, you don't go to town because you didn't get up early. You didn't make your bed up. You didn't clean the room up. You know, and sometimes the whole dormitory was suffered because of one or two guys. So that's where they told us, well, you guys don't, the whole dormitory don't go to town because of these 2 guys. So we have to get on these guys to start pushing their what do they call it, clean up the dorms or whatever, you know.
To do their part.
Exactly. You know, 'cause that was up to us then, you know.
So
we had I think our dorm leaders was, I forget where the heck was our dorm leader in our dorm. Oh my goodness.
well, I remember a guy named Self. I've got a list of the workers there, but I didn't bring it with me. But they had a tough job because we didn't have enough staff to do everything like 8 to 5, an 8-hour day. So the resident workers would actually come to work before about the time you guys got off of work.
Yes.
And so they were there, you know, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they would stay there and get you guys in bed. And then they would stay in the dorm and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure everybody was up and out. And then they'd go home.
Yes.
At 8 o'clock. So they actually were working, you know, 12-hour days that they were at the center, but they only got, you know, paid for 8. And I don't know how many times I tried to get that corrected to make it more fair, but that's the only way we could get it to work. And then the guys that were working there agreed to it, and they did the job.
Yes.
So
you know, I really appreciate all that. You know, that one time was, I forget who asked one of the dorm leaders. You know, if they got paid for staying overnight or whatever. It says, no, we're doing this out of free gratis. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and that part I do appreciate a lot. You know, because they're doing their thing not just for themselves but for us. You know, to teach us something. To teach us what's in this world, you know.
I just thought that was unfair that they, you know, that they did that. They wouldn't provide the staffing for those dorms. So anyway, then the dorms were, when, like you said, when they came, they had the rooms. And they had a desk and a bed.
Yes.
In a place. Did they have a washer and dryer?
Well, they had two washers, two washers and two dryers.
2 washers, 2 dryers,
You know.
for 30 guys.
Yes.
Because there were 30 guys in a dorm.
You know, because then you could figure that out more or less who's gonna wash clothes or whatever, you know. You already had your own way how to do it, you know.
Sure.
You know, so we all, you know, on that part wise, everybody got together, you know, who's gonna wash and who's gonna do this. But sometimes we would double up, say, you know, say in my sleeping quarters, we would double up on, say if you're gonna wash white clothes or black clothes or colored clothes, you know. Then we just throw them all in there, and then when we get done washing, we all separate our clothes, you know. So, you know, it worked out that way, you know. Some people wanted to wash their own clothes, which is fine, you know. We never did argue who's gonna use those. Yes, or either that, or we could go over the other dorms and ask them who can use your dryers, you know, or wash them. It's sure, you know. Nobody's using them anyway, you know.
Yeah, so we had 14 washers and 14 dryers for 214 guys.
Yes, sir.
And then the sheets and everything were.
They were all farmed out to somebody else.
Yeah, we sent them to a laundry downtown, and I think, you know, before I left there, I think we built a laundry room where we did our own laundry, but see, that was extra work. So then there was a problem with who's going to take care of that.
Yes.
So anyway, then when you said, you know, strikes against you, what was your opinion of the discipline program?
You know, there was some that was dependent on the man or the guy that was there, you know. You know, you have to more or less learn your own discipline, you know. Because say, like I was saying a while ago, you know, if you don't cooperate or you don't do your thing you're gonna harm the other guy more than yourself, you know. So these guys are gonna get on you. I said, hey, straighten up, do something, you know. We can't have this, you know. But a lot of guys, they didn't want to cooperate, you know. So that's where we went back to the dorm leader and told him, hey, you know, so-and-so is not doing this. It's not our fault. You know, we try to help the man out, but the man don't want him. You know, at times, you know, some of them guys that was kind of, what do they call them, rebellious.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't stick around. They went home, you know. Because I remember there was a guy, he was a good guy, you know, but he was from Alliance, Nebraska. You know, he stayed there not even 2 or 3 months. He wanted to come home because he didn't like it. You know, to this time, I still see this man. He lives around here. And I asked him about it, you know. I should have stayed, this and that, but he didn't want to, you know.
Was he at Great Onyx?
Yes, sir. And it was Tom Sanchez. That was his name. You know. And I got to meet him over there because they shipped him from Alliance to Great Onyx. You know, there was, like I said, there was nothing down here yet, you know. But he didn't last too long. You know, there was quite a few guys out there didn't last that long, you know.
No, that was one of the problems with the program in the beginning. Well, throughout the program was guys staying. They'd come and stay for a while and then, you know, go home without finishing
Yes.
the you know, education or whatever. And it was you know, a lot of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the same way with the staff. Staff members, they'd get in the program and it would be too tough, or they didn't like it, or they didn't like the supervisor or me or whatever, and so they'd leave.
Uh-huh.
And so that's when I was but when I ask you about discipline overall, how did the staff treat you when you, the purpose of the program was to keep people there. And we knew we were getting, young men that were maybe outside the law, because, in some cases, a corpsman would tell me that they came to the Job Corps because the judge said,
yes,
Job Corps or jail. So they'd pick the Job Corps. And so they had, knives, and some came with guns, and we would get those away,
yes,
voluntarily. So we didn't say, force anybody. We just said, you can't have a gun here, so you give it to me and we'll keep it, and then when you leave, you can have it back. But nobody ever asked for one back.
no, sir.
So we didn't try to have a discipline program where we kicked people out for doing bad things. We tried, that's what the counselors were for, the staff, was to talk with you about things like that, to see if we could get, you to see things the right way, and to do things more legal, without
there used to be
being a criminal.
one of the guys, he was our coach, the football player for football, and more or less the guys would go to him a lot, If you had a problem, he would talk to you, and then you would approach somebody else that you had a problem with, and talk it over with, And that came out real good, because he was involved with us just like everybody else, but there was other staff members that were involved more with the corpsmen than the other ones,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they didn't care for us, but there's other ones that would understand, because they probably come in the same background we come from, and they understood us,
Yeah, there's always people, Sam, that just come to work, do their job, and go home.
Yes.
Then there's people that are dedicated to their job, and they get the job done. If you understand what I'm getting at.
Just like, say, there's people that do care for you, and other people, they just want a job and that's it, I'm not saying they didn't care less, but they did care in a way, but in another way, they didn't care as much as this other coach did,
Yeah.
Who had somebody to talk to,
Well, see, Bill Shields was a coach. I think Kelly, the guy that you mentioned, we pointed out before, was a coach. And then Teggy, Ken Teggy.
There's another guy, you could talk to him, and he'd stand there and listen to us, and then he'd start telling you back, And, we understood him, because like you said, he understood the people.
Yeah, well, he cared about what the program was for in trying to get it done.
Yes.
Instead of just having a job.
Even like that one, I don't know if I think he was from Oklahoma, and then was McGee.
Yeah, Mac McGee.
Yes, sir. He was short, kind of
Yeah.
stocky guy. Well, he's another guy that you could talk to.
Would spend time with you.
Yes.
He was a teacher.
Yes. And he would help you out, But it depends how thick-headed you were, if you wanted or not. But still, he'd be there for you,
Well, there were sometimes, we were criticized, or I should just say I was criticized, because I wasn't, that wasn't tough enough.
Oh.
Because the idea was, like the superintendent that I worked for, the second one that came there, his idea was if you do something wrong, you break a rule, send them home. And that's not what the program was about, was sending people home. It was keeping people there so they would accept the rule
Yes.
and do things right. And that was the other thing that I learned from my time with my mother and teachers and so forth is, and with my wife and kids, is if you make a rule, you have to enforce it, or it's not a rule. And so my belief was always the least amount of rules. Only had rules, you couldn't, we didn't want you to murder somebody or stealing or damage to property, some things like that. But it was still, you know, on damage, if they would do restitution and get with the program, they stayed. But the turnover was that was one of the criticisms that the newspapers had about the Job Corps was that turnover.
Like, say, they could talk all they wanted to about the Job Corps, you know, but you got to look at the outcome. You know, how did we come out? You know, the people that were in there come out of there, you know, saying that you learned something. You know, like you were saying, the turnover. There's guys that didn't want to learn anything, like you know, but the guys that want to learn, they stayed behind. See, you know, like my part, I learned quite a bit. You know, I learned how to get along with people. You know, which I never did have a problem with that. You know, getting along with people. You know, but you know, there's, I think at any race, you know, you can get along with a person, but then later on, this other guy, they don't want to do this or that, you know. There's going to be different views of different races, you know, say like, get along with people, you know. They don't want to get along with you, forget it, you know, go somewhere else, you know. That's what I've been doing. I mean, I try to get along with people, you know.
Well, you're pretty practical, you know, there's some things you can change, some things you can't.
Exactly.
Because it's a matter of opinion, it's attitude. You know, I can tell you something, but you may not use a bad word, but you still think it.
Yeah.
See, and I don't think these people today really understand that you can't make somebody just because it's not nice, you can't make somebody not want to do it.
Yes.
So, because I notice that you use the term black, you don't use African American.
No.
See, and I never do either, because either they were, when I started, they were Negroes, and then blacks.
And I don't know, I always grew up using that, you know, because, like I said, I was hung around with them, you know.
Sure.
You know, they probably call each other whatever they want to call, you know. But it'd be wrong for me to do that, you know. But it'd be all right for them. I says, okay, you know, I mean, you carry your story over there, you know, I'll keep mine over here, you know.
It's you know, it's a thing about, I can call you a name as long as you accept it.
Yeah.
If you don't care. Okay, but if I hurt your feelings by saying something, then that's not right. And that's what people need to be more sensitive about, is, you know, is not even, you know, think the things, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure it's like you were, you know, we were talking, you were mentioning that the, you know, your attitude about blacks, or I don't like to use blacks or Mexicans because Mexican isn't a race. That's a nationality. Okay. I don't like Hispanic either, but I don't know a better word, because the Mexicans are are native people like the American Indians.
Yeah.
And they also are crossbred with the Spanish that were over here. So anyway, what I'm getting at, I guess, is that we need to forget about this race thing and talk about your education, your behavior, the way you conduct yourself. You know, if every time I go into, say, the minority part of town, or the people, the immigrants from Mexico, the part of town, if I'm afraid, I'm not going to like that. See, and so I don't understand, because you were talking earlier about, you know, about being, what's that term, when they look at you and think you're, what's the term about issue when you're, anyway, I'll get on something else. It's that word that you were talking about. It's like discrimination, where you if you walk in the store because you're, what do you call that?
Prejudiced. No.
Well, anyway, it's when a cop sees a guy and arrests him just because because of his color. What's the word?
Racial?
Yeah, well, it's simple. We use it all the time.
I can't think, I don't know what he's talking about.
By discrimination.
So anyway, that's kind of the way that people make their mind up about associating with people that don't look like them, is you know, how they act. And I've never found any problem, you know, with anybody. But I make my mind up on the basis of how they conduct themselves.
Yeah.
And then if you're seeing a bunch of strangers that are a different color, you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But all you know is that there's things happen there that you don't want to be involved with. And it works for whites going to a black neighborhood, or blacks going to a white neighborhood. But some are more violent than others.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway.
But over, like, you know, like when we was there at the Job Corps Center, you know, you didn't see that. The only place you would see it, like, if when we went out of the center, go to the towns, different that, you know, then you would see it, you know. But where we were at, it was all right, you know. There was never a racial thing, you know.
Not in the center.
You know, and I learned that, you know. You know, even like, say, guys didn't stay there with us or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you said, that was their choice, you know. You didn't force them to go out and do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, but so me personally, I never felt any fear of being in the center or being with any of you guys. And I've been there when there were fights in the dorm, and I remember getting up and putting on my ranger hat and the pants and the coat over my pajamas, and going down to the center and walking in the dorm, you know, and saying, you know, what the hell are you guys doing? You know, just get to bed. And nobody ever, I'd never got any back talk. Everybody was nice. I think they kind of laughed. And I just, but some of the staff had some issues like that they were concerned. I remember one time you guys were unhappy about something, and they all gathered around the flagpole. And the staff was down there, and all of a sudden, you know, they came back to the administration building, and were concerned. And so I just said, well, I guess I'm going to have to take care of it. So I just put on my hat, walked down there, and asked you guys, you know, what's the problem? And I said, you know, if I can close the mess hall too if I have to. You know, if you want to eat, you got to behave. But I never had any problem with or any fear. The only time I had any second thoughts was after we opened, and I was still living at the park, and I got a call about the second night we had Corpsmen. And that was one of the nights I put on my coat over my pajamas, and I headed down there because the staff said they didn't know how to handle the situation. I think there was a fight in a dorm or something. And so I remember I was driving down the dirt road, you know, to the center from park headquarters. And I remember stopping, and I just sat there a minute, and I said, what in the heck have you got yourself into? And I said, now's the time to either fish or cut bait. And so I just started up the car and went down there and walked in the dorm, and no problem. Yeah. Everybody was satisfied, and went to bed.
Not really issues like that. I never, you know, the time I was there, we never. I don't think I ever seen a fight while I was there.
See, and I didn't think we had any discipline problem, and I didn't think or know, maybe you know, were people living there, I mean, some of the corpsmen leaving because they were afraid?
I don't think so. You know, I don't think on my part it was like that, you know, because I think they weren't used to the environment, you know, I mean, being around a lot of guys.
Well, that and being out in the woods too.
Yeah, you know, and some of these guys that, like they more or less like say they come from the back country, they're not used to that, you know. They're not used to being around people. And you know, and I met quite a few guys, you know, that they stayed and left. They were from the back country, you know.
Well, were they, like with the black guys, they were usually bigger.
Yeah, oh man, there was some humongous guys in there.
And so were people, other corpsmen, afraid of them and leaving because of them?
No, I don't think there was, you know, because, you know, like, I don't know, I like I said, I had no problem, not unless these guys had a problem with them, you know, but I don't think, because there was no issues that they were going to get beat up or what, you know, that I could see, you know. Because
you said, you know, you told me earlier that the staff, the resident workers, were doing a good job with the...
You know, with the people, you know, I mean, but, you know, like, I don't know, the guys probably just didn't like it there. They didn't like the way it looked or what, you know, I mean, you really can't say too much about them guys that didn't stay, you know, it'd been all right. That way they could have learned something like what I learned out of it, and the other corpsmen learned out of it, you know. You know, there's corpsmen now, they're probably doing a lot better than what we're doing now, see. What we were doing then and what we're doing now, we're doing better now. Because I know the period of time I was there, like I said, you know, I learned my welding skill. They got me a job working at the Lockwood Company, and there's where I started welding more or less. I welded 25 years, you know, and that was a good experience, you know, because they're, like you were saying just a while ago about guys, they know the job, say you're supervisors, they know the job, they're gonna teach you, but once you're out here in the public, it's a totally different story, you know. Because when I started, for me to get certified as a government welder, I would have to go by the the teachers, the way they set their welders, you know. And like I told him that one time, because I failed twice. My third time I passed through it, you know. And that time he went to go do something, and I set my welder at my pace. So that's where I passed it, see. But I couldn't pass it after he had set it. When he wanted his temperature. I said, they don't work that way in everybody else. Everybody has a different setting of welding. You know, just like a different setting in your skills of what you got, you know. So I passed it, you know. And I says, you might be book smart, you know, but when you're out in the public, you don't have the knowledge of what's going on with us workers out here in the open, you know. You know, a lot of times they don't like what you tell them, but what the heck, you know, what are you gonna do, you know?
Yeah.
You know, just like when we was there in the Job Corps Center, sure, you know, people had to show us more or less, you know. You know, they were book smart, you know. And we have to learn from them, you know. But then in the same road, they have to learn from us too, you know. What would we like out in the street, out in the public, you know?
We learned a lot.
You know, I bet you a lot of the staff members, they learn who we are, you know.
Yes.
Because they probably when they got, like you said, when am I going to get into it, you know? Even probably that's say the same thing, you know. Who's these guys? I don't even know them. What's going to happen, you know? Even like the people out in town, you know. Who these guys are coming in here showing, you know, we're learning a trade. But still, they didn't like what they were bringing in.
Want some water?
No, I'm all right. You know, they didn't like what they were bringing in. Because they thought it was going to mess up their way of living. You know, because it wasn't then. You know, I mean, their way of living is probably still the same thing. They never changed. You know.
Well, see, the thing that you know, the corpsmen didn't know, and the staff either when we started, is that site where the center was on Flint Ridge, that had been a golf club, the Bluegrass Country Club, and that old log building that burned,
okay,
that we used for where you made your artwork, that was the clubhouse for the Bluegrass Country Club. And then after that, I think it was Camp 1 or Camp 4, but Mammoth Cave had 4 CCC camps
okay,
in there previously, and the Flint Ridge site was the most remote, you know, out there from, you know, the road how you had to go to get to Cave City, you know, in Park City. That was the furthest away. Was out there at Flint Ridge, and that CCC camp was an all-black camp, and they had a few white guys that were in the office, and so the people around there remember that.
yeah,
See, and I don't think they had any problems because the difference between the CCC and the Job Corps, the main difference was the Army ran the CCCs. They built the camps. They had Army officers there. They had Army, you know, discipline, but it was a whole different situation because there was no work, but a lot of people that had skills,
yeah,
that were looking for jobs, and so that's why they had that. In the CCCs, a lot of the, not a lot, but some of the trails and things that were built in Mammoth Cave National Park were built by the CCCs. See, and then you guys came in with just kind of flipped over. You had the jobs were available, but you didn't have the skills.
yeah,
And so our job was to provide you with the basic information and knowledge, skills to be able to get on your, you know, your foot on the first rung of the ladder.
like you were saying, like even like work-wise, like we used to go into Mammoth Cave, you know, to do work, you know, sidewalks or whatever they needed, gravel, you know. And we did a lot of work inside that cave, you know. Because they used to have, what was that, one hospital, the tuberculosis hospital. They had it down in the cave, you know. And they even showed us...
You remember that?
Yes, sir. Because they even showed us buckets of, I don't know, they kept crackers and stuff inside of it, but they were old. I don't know how old they were, but that one ranger said they were already stale, you know. But still, that was a hospital where they kept the people with tuberculosis.
Had TV.
Yes, had TB in there, and it was humongous. And plus, we come to find out, and back in the Civil War, I guess, they used to make their own gunpowder down in the bottom, you know.
Well, see, what they did was they mined, I was gonna say it, but I forgot the word. Saltpeter.
Okay.
They mined saltpeter at the cave down there when you first came in, that big pit that was there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and saltpeter they thought that was used for explosives, for guns, for bullets. But they also had the thing about saltpeter was that they thought that was a anti-aphrodisiac that had cut down your sex drive.
Yeah.
And so they'd feed the soldiers saltpeter. So they'd leave the girls alone.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's true, but that's what they said. That was kind of what was going on, but that was the beginnings of the Mammoth Cave. Because see, that had just been made a park. Not 15 years or so before the Job Corps Center was there.
Yeah, there was a lot of construction still that we done in there, you know.
Yeah, we started their self-guiding trail.
Because there was times where we had to take portable jackhammers to get in there and make the trail wider.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you guys did that work. You built those stairs that go down there now. The entrance.
And then plus we had, like I told you before, we took some, because that river was underneath that cave, you know, or in the cave.
Yeah.
So we took some flat bottom boats, took them down there. I think we took about 5 or 6 of them for tourists to get on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you were down there, because I remember when we were, you know, packing that in there, that was a work project, and I said, that's fine, we'll go ahead and do it, but I asked, you know, I asked the park, what skills are you going to learn by packing a boat in there?
You know, but it was something else, you know. It took us a while to figure out how you're going to get it down there between them curves, you know.
And it was interesting.
Yes. It took us, I say it take them down, it took us about a week and a half. You know, because like I said, we split the jobs between weeks, you know. But between all of us, it was probably about 3 weeks probably, you know.
Yeah, there was that water was down there.
It was something else.
That's where the blind fish were.
Yes, fish without, they couldn't see. Never seen that before till we got there, you know.
I don't know any place else that it exists. That's the first place I've heard about it. And the last place, but I haven't really searched it that much. Okay, we've pretty well covered the center activities. Do you have anything more you'd like to add about your time at the Job Corps Center?
No, that's about it, you know, that we all went through, you know, and talk about, you know, how my life was there, you know. It was a good life that I come to understand, you know, that there was other better things to do than being out in the street, you know.
Did you feel like it was beneficial to you?
Yes, it was, you know.
What was the most important part, do you think, Sam?
My main cap is, well, getting along with the people, you know, and plus learning my trade that I know now about my welding, know how to weld now, see.
How about your education?
Education, I have to keep up practice on it, you know. Because what I learned out by education and help out, but still I have to learn some of my own in order to keep on going, you know.
Well, did what you had at the center, did that help you?
Oh, heck yes. That
Did
was
it
a
help
start.
with your reading and writing? And
That was a start with where I started from, see. You know,
Okay.
before I didn't have hardly nothing, now I got plenty now. And then I have to, well, that was my start to keep on learning more, see. So that helped me out quite a bit.
okay, well, we can go back to anything that would come to your mind as we go on here. So let's start now with you left Great Onyx. What did you do? Did you go to Cave City to get on a bus?
Yeah, we left, well, I left Great Onyx, then I was transferred over to the Great Onyx bus station that they have there, you know. You know, you guys paid my way home and everything, you know.
Did you fly?
No, I took the bus all the way home.
The bus, okay,
You know, and going with, you know, taking that bus, it took me to places I'd never been before. You know, I've seen different places and all that, you know. But then on the way home, that's like, you know, the closer I got home, the more anxious I want to get home, you know. But then that's when it hit me that I got to look for a job, you know. So I started working, and when I left there,
you know, so you got home, and was your mom home?
oh, everybody was home, you know. They were all glad to see me.
Did you have a party?
No, we didn't. You know, well, we were glad to be home together again. You know, at least we were one family again. You know, before there was, you know, the family was there, but there was one missing. But once I got home, everybody was together. You know.
Okay, so now you're home. On the way home, you decided that you had to look for a job.
Yes, sir.
And so now you're home, and okay. So what happened after that?
Now, once I got home, then I started looking for a job. You know, and I ended up working for the company I worked my first time. You know, I worked for Lockwood's building. Well, I was supposed to start welding for them.
How do you spell Lockwoods?
L-O-C-C, no, L-O-O-C-K, Wood, W-O-D.
Is it two O's, C-K?
Yes. You know, and then started working for them.
Lockwood what?
What's that?
What was Lockwood what?
Lockwood's was over in Gary. Lockwood's Incorporated.
What was the name of the company?
The Lockwood's.
Just Lockwood?
Yes,
Okay.
that was the name of the company, you know.
And what did they do?
They, more or less, well, when I got there, well, they were building, well, they always built equipment for potato harvesters, planters. And then they started going into the, making, what do they call them? Bean cutters. You know, and then they always made beet toppers and all that, you know. Then they started making it bigger. So I didn't get into that.
Did you weld?
No, I never got a chance to weld, but they put me over in the paint department, and I started painting there. You know, and I got some painting skills out of that, but I never got a chance to weld till I ended up quitting there, and I ended up going to National Drinks, Coca-Cola National Drinks. And they needed a welder in there, so I applied for it, and they gave it to me. You know, I'd done a little bit of welding there, off and on, you know. But then they asked me if I wanted to drive a truck for them to transport pop bonus to warehouses. And I just started doing that. You know, and then in time, I worked for them at least 8, 9 years probably, you know. So I started, after that, they bought a bigger trailer and everything, so they took me off the road, and I started working inside the warehouse where they made the pop and all that, you know. Then I stayed there for a while, then me and my wife got married.
What year was that?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Back in what?
Let's see, you've been married 57 years?
Back in 70, that's what it was.
70?
And got married in 70.
Remember the day?
70 what? 15th? Yeah, it was the day before her birthday.
When's her birthday?
The 16th. I think it's either before or after, one of the two.
Of July?
No, of August.
August, okay. August 16th?
1970, you know. So we got married, and then we had apartments and everything then, you know. So we needed more income. So I went back to Lockwoods, where they had moved before. They moved over the other side of Gearing. So I got me a job there. You know, I started working as a fabricator. Then I stayed there. We was working nights. Then during the time of that fabrication, they had openings for welders. So I got back into the trade I needed. See? And altogether, what I done welding there was welding sprinkler systems. And that was a big deal then in them days, because there was a lot of pipe, and well, pretty all their sprinkler system was going to Saudi Arabia. You know, they were shipping it down there. So we was working 24 hours a day. You know, they had 2 different shifts. 8-hour shifts, I mean, yeah. You know, and then we made pretty good money at it, you know. I stayed there till the time they closed, you know.
What did they pay?
That time, my goodness, I can't even remember. I can't remember how much I was getting paid.
Because you told me when your first job's working in the potatoes for the farmers there at
Oh yeah,
it was $10 a week.
that was $10 a week. You know, that's what I got. You know, but over here, when I started working in the factory, I can't remember. Oh my goodness, I can't remember exactly. You know, it had to be over $7 an hour then.
Yeah.
But still, you know, that was all right money when you was putting in a lot of time in. But then that started coming down to a downhill, because this company had sold, I think they sold a patent to Saudi Arabia, so they started making their pipe over there instead of buying from the United States. So that drugged us down. So they was making enough pipe for around here for the United States. You know, where it went, I don't know where it went to. But there's where we stayed until they closed that part up, and we went into welding for, I think, potato harvesters, the beet harvesters, you know. And you name it, they made it there, you know. Because they even got into the contract with the government making dump bodies for trucks.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How did a potato harvester work?
Well, they would work, say, everything was fabricated there.
What did they dig the potatoes?
They had a digger, they called it a digger. It dug the potatoes out of the ground, and they would run them up a chain, knock all the dirt off. Then from there, depending on what kind of a harvester you wanted, you know, they had they had like an air blower that would blow all the dirt, not the dirt, the leaves and limbs out of that thing and suck them up and throw them away, you know. But it would clean them more or less, take all the dirt clods or whatever out of them, you know. But I didn't know too much about that. I don't know. I just welded on them, you know.
Okay.
And then we done your potato planters.
Planters?
A planter well, it would plant your potatoes in the ground, you know.
Well, how did that work? You had to pick up a potato, stick it in the ground?
Yeah, it would have, I don't know, the way they had like little spikes that would pick up the potato, you know, drop it down a tube, and as it was going down the line,
Oh, yeah?
They planted potatoes in there, you know.
Huh,
And I just got into, you know, welding this stuff. But
sure.
actually, seeing them work, I never got to see one work.
Okay.
Same thing like a potato harvester, I see them work, you know, from a distance, but I never got into it, you know. But it was all right, you know, working there. I worked there, what, 25 years,
Wow.
you know, and from there, they closed her up. Then I started finding different jobs, you know, till I finally started working for this one outfit, Panhandle Concrete. I stayed there the longest because I was coming into the retirement age. So I says, well, I'll take this retirement. And I took it at what, I think it was 45. Because my part, I really couldn't get along with my my foreman's son. It was different, you know, I couldn't work with him anymore. So I decided to take my retirement. And then from there, I got this job, another job working for, what is it, Scuttleford Country Club. You know, I was a groundskeeper there. You know, till right now I'm there. I just work, what, 6 months out of the year. Just sit back and work 6 months out of the year inside the house. You know, cleaning, washing, whatever you want to do, I do it in there, you know. You know, but it's a boring job working in the house. But still, I know what these women go through, you know. It's hard work, you know.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't seem like it, you know, you just sit there and vacuum or whatever, you know, but it takes a lot of time. Especially if you don't do it right, somebody's gonna get mad. You know?
So what does your wife do?
She works, right now she's working part-time over at this furniture store, Weber's Furniture Store. She works about 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day. You know, and she enjoys it, you know.
Good.
That way I stay out of your way.
Okay, so you spent that amount of time with the fabricating, or what did you do most of your welding?
Most of my welding was there.
Was there?
Yes, sir.
How about, you said you welded pipes?
Yeah, we welded the sprinkler system there. Well, it's pipe, you know.
Where you were fabricating?
No, where I was fabricating, oh my goodness.
Equipment.
Equipment to be welded together, see. Different parts of the, say like if it was a potato harvester, you would do different parts, you know, like whatever it took to build that machine. You know, they started from scratch and come out with a machine, you know. So that was all right too, you know. Everything was more or less from scratch.
Okay.
But
Okay, well, what else?
that's about it. That's went in my life, you know. You know, I just gotta say thanks for Job Corps, you know.
Thanks for Job Corps?
Yes, sir.
Well,
They more or less give you the skill. But if you want to work it, fine. If you don't, you're just out of luck, you know.
well, we've talked about the benefit you've received from the Job Corps, but in the United States public received a benefit from the Job Corps also, I think. And part of that benefit was during the period that you guys, the first 3 or 4 years of Job Corps, things got more peaceful in our country. There was a downturn in crime and things were better. And then, of course, when Mr. Nixon was elected President Nixon, then he brought in Mr. Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, and they completely abolished the Office of Economic Opportunity. And you know who was in charge of that at the beginning was Sergeant Shriver.
Okay.
That he ran the Office of Economic Opportunity, and the Job Corps was under him. And I talked with a man that worked for Shriver. In fact, I think Shriver might have been one of the people that interviewed me to be a center director, or I think one of his helpers in his office.
Okay.
And so, you know, Shriver was the guy behind the Peace Corps, and since there was no connection between Peace Corps and Job Corps, but Shriver had done a good job with Peace Corps, and he was President Kennedy's brother-in-law.
Okay.
And I know that Eunice Kennedy, John Kennedy's sister, kept after, she was married to Shriver. So her name was Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and she had been pestering John when he was president, before he was assassinated, of course, to start something about a youth corps,
Yeah.
to try to help the poverty in the inner cities that was causing a lot of people unhappiness, and it just detrimental to their well-being, really. And so Johnson decided he would continue that, and so he has got the Equal Employment Opportunity Act passed in 1964, and the Job Corps came out of that.
That's all right.
So you've been part of history.
It's all right, you know, to know where I'm coming from, you know.
And you've done well. So the American public got a ferry boat. They got a well-built Job Corps center that the Park Service tore down and threw away to build a new one. They got work done in their cave. They got the cover on that old railroad car that they had there at headquarters. They got maintenance on their buildings and on their water and sewer systems. In addition to that, Bowling Green got a whole section of water and sewer put in the part of town that they left out in their big utilities contract. And of course, you can guess what part of town that was.
Yes.
Okay, and the center built a landing strip for the Elizabethtown Airport in Kentucky, and we did flood control work for this little town. I can't recall the name right now. We did a lot of good things around there. Well, at least while I was there, and afterwards. They didn't do as much work for the park, but they built a new firehouse in Cave City. They built a senior center in Cave City. They built a library in Cave City. They did a lot of things around in the communities. And now they, as I mentioned before, their main course is vocational training.
Okay.
And they're teaching urban forestry, which means they're training people how to trim trees.
That's
So my friend, that's, I guess, the end of our conversation for now.
all right. You know, that's all right. You know, I enjoy being here with you.
Yes, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you agreed to.
And we haven't seen each other since
Since you
I
left.
left, you know. Till you got a hold of me that one day, or your sister-in-law did, you know. We've been all right, you know.
Good. Well, I've enjoyed having a chance to talk with you about one of my favorite jobs.
That's good. And you do all right.
And there's a picture in there. Remember that kid from St. Louis, John? He was the one that wrecked the cars.
That's the thing. It was Mahoney.
That was John. Anyway, he went from the Job Corps into this Army, and he was a tank tank operator in Vietnam. And he came back, he called me, and I didn't keep track of where he was. He called me and he said, boy, I just love that job, driving that tank. He said, I could run over anything. John
Waffen?
was something like that. We're getting close, but anyway, there were a lot of corpsmen, a lot of kids there that were trying to do the best. You know, we had kids from New York that were in the gangs, in you know, from different walks of life, and that needed a chance for, as they said, as we said in the Job Corps, to get their foot on the first rung of the ladder.
Yes, sir.
To move up. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.